animals are the epitome of that. Like, they're so great at just being authentically themselves, and they're unapologetic about it. They don't care what the other horse in that paddock thinks of them, and they don't care what the other duck or guinea pig or dog. They're just good at being themselves. And so I think we have a lot to learn from animals.
Welcome to Women Thrive podcast. This is where you'll get to hear incredible stories of female entrepreneurs, business owners, women from all walks of life. Myself, Raymond Jan, and my co-host Abigail will be interviewing incredible women, hearing inspiring stories of women from all around the world. I have no doubt that you will find something that will be life-changing for you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join us for our future episodes. Hello and welcome to today's podcast with your host, Raymond Jan. I'm excited to have you here for today's conversation as we're talking about our instincts. And I believe that all of us have it. It's just a matter of recognizing their superpower. My lovely guest today is Hayley Chambers, who's a transformative coach, a counselor, author, and a speaker with over 25 years of expertise in personal development, coaching, and animal industries. As the managing director of Animal Instincts Australia and Outback Equines, she has redefined empowerment through animal and equine-assisted therapy and coaching. Hayley, lovely to have you here. Welcome. Where are you joining us from?
Thank you. I'm in a small town called Gumbunji in Queensland, Australia, which is probably about 2.5 hours west of Brisbane, so out in the country.
Lush. Amazing. So I'm excited to welcome you to today's podcast because you are one of our authors at the Women Thrive, inside Women Thrive book volume 4. And your story has just come out, which is all about your work and your own personal journey overcoming adversity. So before we get into your story, I want to find out what it is that you do and the work that you do, because I know it's quite different and unique. So I'm really curious for our audience to find out a bit more.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. So what I do is I work in self and professional development, specifically disability mental health. We also work with organizations and businesses as well. And we're using animal and equine-assisted therapy to help bring about positive change for people on a personal level. And then we also do professional development, so team building workshops, employee assistance programs. We work with therapy dogs, we work with horses. We have a farm here with like every kind of animal you could think of, and they all work as therapy animals in our programs. So I have myself and a small team of staff that I work with.
Amazing. And are these rescue animals?
Yeah. So a lot of them are. We do a lot of rescue and foster. So I always joke that we're the halfway house for a lot of animals that are needing homes and maybe found themselves in a pretty challenging situation, or maybe they've had multiple homes that haven't worked out. So a lot of our clients, they're sometimes going through their own challenges. And what I see is that I can see them, they help our animals that have got some challenges, and they're helping each other. And the result is always really great. So our clients quite often can see some relatability between themselves and the animals, which I guess they work symbiotically together.
Wow, amazing. So if we take you right back, where did this passion to work with animals begin for you?
As a kid, so I grew up in the suburbs of Brisbane. I didn't grow up in the country. My parents are not country type people. We sort of more lived in the city. And I don't remember ever a day going by that I wasn't obsessed with animals, like from a really little kid. So the story my mum used to tell was that we lived on a more house block, but we had some people at the back of us that had horses. And she said if it was a toddler, I would grab carrots out of the fridge and I would bring the neighbour's horses into her laundry. And she would come in and say, oh my God, my 2-year-old is around these massive big horses' legs. And she used to freak out because they're not horsey people. So yeah, I was just always obsessed, everything about them. I felt like I understood them and they made sense to me. They were easy to understand and they were easy to communicate with. People were a little harder. As I got older, I got better with people, of course. But yeah, animals just, I don't remember ever not being completely amazed by them. And it didn't matter what kind of animal.
Wow. And when did you start your own business in this?
Yeah, so I actually convinced my parents when I was about 12 to start my own business. And I used to this is before the internet and social media and whatever. I used to put little flyers up at our local shops everywhere saying that I'd wash people's horses, or I would clean up their paddocks, or I would ride their horses. And I had no business sense, and I probably spent more on fuel getting there with my mum. And she would wait for me while I was riding random people's horses. And I had no idea what I was doing really, but I had ambition, I was just determined. I started my first business, Animal Instincts Australia, when I was about 22 or 23. I'd had enough of working for other businesses, and I really wanted to set my own hours and be a bit more autonomous to how things rolled. And so, I just started putting flyers up again before social media and the internet. I think we had internet, there was no advertising. So I started getting, I still know my very first client who contacted me. I still keep in contact with her, and that was like 20-something years ago.
Wow. So what does Animal Instinct stand for? Why is it a significant name for you?
Back then, I didn't realize how significant that business name would be. And it was actually my mom who helped me come up with that business name. And as soon as she said it, I was like, yes, that's it. That's the one I need. Now I know the significance of it. Now I have the maturity to look back and go, oh, wow, that's really important that it was called that. Because I really think as we grow up and we get affected by life and relationships and all the outside influences, where humans have tended to, we lose our instincts for things, right? And we get caught up in the opinions of others. And I think really getting back to your own instincts and intuition is really about finding your inner voice that is for you. It resonates with you. It doesn't matter about what anyone else thinks. It's being truly authentic to what is right for you. And animals are the epitome of that. Like, they're so great at just being authentically themselves. And they're unapologetic about it. They don't care what the other horse in that paddock thinks of them. And they don't care what the other duck or guinea pig or dog. They're just good at being themselves. And so I think we have a lot to learn from animals of how great they are at just being themselves. So now I know why that name is important.
So you do equine-assisted therapy. Tell me a little bit more who it's for, why it's useful, and what it really does for people.
Ever since I was tiny, I was obsessed with horses. I look now and I can see why. Like, horses are so great at reflecting back to us what's going on within ourselves. They have this amazing ability to reflect the outside world. They can adjust their heart rate depending on those around them. And they do that as a survival technique in a herd. Ever since I've been doing this particular work, I spent a lot of time training horses. So I did a lot of horse training and coaching and equestrian coaching. And then that was before I went into the equine-assisted therapy work. Doing this work has just blown my mind with how horses will respond to those around them. So I've got kids that maybe are in wheelchairs and they're nonverbal, and my most highly strung, super opinionated horse that maybe other people look at and go, oh, I don't know about him having him around kids. That horse will just melt to butter around those kids. And every time I watch it, I get goosebumps. Like, it's just quite incredible. Watching people, how they change just through simple things like brushing a horse or smelling their smells or feeling their breath on them. It's quite amazing. And until you've actually witnessed it and seen it, words can't actually describe it, to be honest. I was talking to one of my coaches yesterday about a particular session, and she just, oh my God, I couldn't believe how good that horse was with that kid. And I said, yeah, we can't put words to it until you experience it for yourself. There's nothing quite like it. And they're great at teaching us stuff too about ourselves. So we're very good at, I guess, projecting stuff onto them. So we might go, oh, well, that horse didn't go near me because he mustn't like me. And so it's usually not about the horse. It gives us an opportunity to see what's going on within ourselves or our own triggers. And they're a really honest reflection of everything that's happening. So I've got some horses that are a little more softer with the opinions and feedback, I guess, that they might give you. And I have a couple of horses that are much more blunt and much more direct. And so as a therapist, obviously I've got to be really conscious as to who I put with who and who's ready to hear the brutal truth about things and who needs a little softer of approach. And it's like going to your friends, right? Some of your friends are there to give you a hug and offer you a hot beverage. And other friends are going to be the ones to say, right, snap out of it. Come on, pick yourself up. So the horses are much the same.
Wow. What do you find that the transformation that happens when people go through equine-assisted therapy or coaching? What's that kind of shift that happens within them?
Oh, so many things. I'm really lucky that I've got a lot of clients that have been with me now for going on probably 4 years now, and some that I've known for 10, 20 years that I knew through equestrian. And it was interesting when I was coaching equestrian, I didn't realize that I'm also seeing therapeutic changes in people, but I wasn't a therapist back then, right? So I just saw improvement because I was a coach. Now what I see, I've got kids that maybe I started working with 4 years ago. I'm thinking one young lady in particular, and she would struggle with emotional regulation. She would get frustrated easily. She struggled with relationships with others. Now, even physically, she would struggle with her core strength. And just through doing both mounted and unmounted equine-assisted therapy, her fine motor skills have developed, her strength has developed, her coordination, her confidence, her ability to talk to others. So much has gone on for her because the horses have just built up her confidence so much that she's got better self-esteem within herself. She views herself differently to what she did 4 years ago. And I'm watching this young lady now. What is she now? 14, and she's going through those teenage years. And her mum constantly relays to me, "Oh, this is the one thing that she will go to so willingly." And so many other therapies she doesn't want to go to. She's not interested, but she will actively participate in this. And what I like about what I do, it's not sitting there talking to someone about their stuff, right? And expecting them to try and articulate things, especially for kids. They can't do that a lot of the time. So it's experiential therapy. You're actually in the moment and the changes are happening as you're going. It's so practical and hands-on, which is the kind of person I am. And so even just becoming mindful and in the present moment, horses are so good at doing that. So you're in the outdoors, you're in nature, you can hear the birds and you can feel the breeze and the sun on your skin. And so suddenly these kids who normally, or even adults that are worrying about the past or the future, we can bring them into the now. And that is such a powerful thing, I think, because so often humans are living in either out there in front of me or behind me. And I think it's so important to learn how to live in the present, and horses are masters at that. They don't think about what happened last year or what might happen next week.
It's so amazing. It's so transformative to be in a moment. As you say, talk therapy doesn't always work, especially for children. So there has to be another way. And it's amazing to hear about that. Do you find that if it's not the same as just going for a horse ride and having a therapy, right? There is a big difference between the two.
It depends on the individual. I've got one gentleman I've worked with who used to work on a station when he was younger, and he openly shares his story with many people, and he was a horseman, he was a ringer, and as he got older, he had a stroke. He almost died a couple of times, and we managed to get him back on a horse after 40 years, and that was a couple of years ago, and he still has no feeling in his left arm, but when he got on the horse and he had a bit of a ride, it brought back all of his stuff from when he was younger and his life that he had so many fond memories of, that he'd always share with me. He'd always be telling me all these stories about what he did and this horse that he rode and these cattle that he mustered. And so the day that he got off that horse that first time back, he was in tears. And he's a tough bloke. He's got tattoos everywhere and he's been a tough fella, but he was so emotional. And he still says to me, "Oh, what you did for me." And I think, "Oh, I didn't do that. The horse did that." Our horses are incredible. And you could just see the horses. They look at you like, "Yeah, it's all right. I got this, Hayley. You don't need to worry about it. I got this." And so for him, what maybe on the outside looked like just a horse ride was so much more. It was so huge, so pivotal. I do often go riding with my clients. I had a bad injury last year, so I haven't been riding properly for a while. But when I would go riding, that was when he would talk. So that was when the talk therapy thing came in. Like, it gave him the freedom out in a big paddock to express himself. And especially as a male, that's a big thing. He can express himself about different things that was going on in his life or how he felt since his injury. And I'm always really conscious now. Back 5 years ago, I've been like, oh yeah, horse riding, whatever, it's horse riding. But now I can see the changes that can make for someone. Obviously, as a therapist, our job is to piece things together and help people recognize different things. So it might be as much as, hey, I noticed that whenever the horse walks away from you, you get a bit upset. Let's talk about that. Or what do you think that is? So that's the part of, I guess, the equine-assisted therapy that a lot of people recognize. But yeah, I mean, when I think of this gentleman, I'm like, man, he just went for a ride, but it was huge for him.
So I know in the book you share a story of overcoming adversity, and it was quite a pivotal moment in your business and as well as in your life. Would you give us just a snippet of your story of what happened? And I guess without spoiling it for our readers, reading the book future.
I can only give little bits or I might get emotional. Seems like a good thing.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I've always been I'm undiagnosed ADHD. Like I fit every model for that. I never realized it until I started working in disability and mental health, and I work with ADHD kids. I'm like, yeah, I get that, kid. I know what's going on there. So to me, doing a lot and having a lot of plates spinning and a lot of tabs open is very normal for me. And so I think the whole work thing, it's very easy to let that get away with you. And as I was in the midst of the business being really successful and feeling pumped, everything's great, I was pushing to do more and more and more, big ideas, big dreams, big goals. But I started to, I guess, lose listening to that little bit of inner voice, that little bit of gut instinct that starts to say, hey, I'm not right here. And I've always been prone to look at, when I meet people, I tend to see what their potential is rather than what's right in front of me. And that has been really useful for working with animals, especially animals that have got a few problems, a few difficult behaviors, because I could look at that and go, but I can see this is going to be great. If we can just get through that stuff, we can have this beautiful result on the other side of that. What I struggled with that pivotal moment was that I was probably looking at too many people with that rose-colored glasses. And I was ignoring my intuition that there's this little thing saying, hey, that person's actually not safe. That person should not be here. You don't feel comfortable with that. And so it was probably that intuition that I was really good at working with animals. Like I could work with a horse that all the other trainers and sacks, and I could see it and listen to that inner voice and go, yeah, I know what to do here. I know when to do it. And it would almost become involuntary, but I was ignoring it with people. And so, yeah, that pivotal moment led to 5 of our dogs being baited and killed by someone that I knew. It was absolutely the worst thing that's happened in my life. And I'd been through a divorce before that, and that was still doesn't even come close to the emotion I felt when that happened. So I really believe the universe keeps sending you the same lesson till you learn from it. And then you learn from that one, and then it throws you a new lesson. So it's like this constant thing, which is great. That's what life and challenges are. But that lesson got thrown at me, and then I got similar lessons over 2 years. Going, hey, Hayley, did you really learn from that? So now I'm really good at listening to my intuition. I don't ignore that now. So I used to try to logic my way out of that. I used to try to say, oh, don't be silly, gut instinct. Like that's, you're being a bit hard, maybe that person's got some stuff. Maybe that's not right. Now, my rule with myself, my child, all of my staff, I say, if your gut tells you no, then it's a no. And it's a hard no, and you don't need to give me any reasons or logic. If your intuition says to you something's not right, then it's just not right.
Yeah.
Or if your gut tells you yes, go for it, go for it. So it's changed the way I view so many things now. I approach things very differently now.
Amazing. That's such a valuable thing that we just forget, and we try to overcompensate or explain ourselves and give people reasons, give ourselves the reasons why. And sometimes the gut is more intelligent than the brain.
So much more intelligent. And I think women especially, a lot of women, we're quite often juggling parenthood and partners and a family. We're trying to be there for everybody and do the right thing for everybody. And we forget that actually when that gut says, actually, that's not right, we don't need to justify it, like you said. I think we get into that pattern very easily. I know I did. And I see a lot of women that I work with, they sometimes feel like they need to give a reason why they can't do something or can't be somewhere or commit to something. And I'm regularly saying to them, just if it says no, it says no. That's just how it is. No can be a full stop in one whole sentence. You don't need to add the extra stuff at the end.
I love it. That's so empowering. Hayley, what are you excited about now that the book is out and people will get to read your story?
How excited. Look, I'm just excited it's out. My parents are so proud. My mom is so cute. She's just like telling everybody, which is really sweet. So that's been nice. And she's been telling me the backstory behind that. My mum has been telling me for like 10 years to write. She's like, you've always been loving writing, and I love reading your writing, and you need to start publishing something. So yeah, it's been very exciting for her that her daughter finally listened to it. I think it's nice to share stories. I love that come on, I'm an author in a book full of other amazing women who have all shared some amazing stories. And if that doesn't inspire you when you're going through a tough time, come on, what would? There's so many reasons in that book to keep going. And despite adversity or obstacles, saying, well, not just in spite of that obstacle, but maybe because of that obstacle, you've become this person and you've got so much more wise. And I used to think, oh, well, in spite of that, I can do this. Now I think, okay, because of that, I've gone down this journey. I've been involved even in the book writing process, right? I've learned so much. So getting the feedback of the chapter as I was going, like there was stuff that I was like, oh, I wouldn't have even thought to go deeper into that. Now I've had that learning journey. And now if that hadn't happened with the dogs, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you right now. And I wouldn't have sort of following some amazing people on social media and hearing their journey and hearing some of their stuff. So I'm so grateful. And whilst I can't look back and say I'm glad that happened, absolutely not. I'm grateful for what has come about it since then. And I'm grateful for the lessons because for whatever reason, I needed to learn those lessons and I needed to learn them now. Yeah. The time was now. It wasn't going to wait for me any longer. And if I can help other people along the way, if you can leave that legacy behind, I really hope when I'm at my funeral, and I'm going to live till I'm like way over 100 because I want to annoy people for a long time. But hopefully at that moment, people can say I was able to get through some crappy times because I read her story or I got to know that person. So if you can affect people in that way beyond your lifetime, then you've done a good job, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Hayley, you are a best-selling author and I'm so excited for your story to be out. I remember when I was reading it, we had multiple versions of it. It just kept getting better. And I was like, yes, we can go a little deeper here, a little deeper there. But I think the end result of your story being out there, and as you said, so many things that not only you've gone through, but all the other women, this is truly a beautiful book for people to be not only inspired, but to have more hope. We all go through difficult times. It might not be something you need right now, and you might not resonate with every story. But I think there is something within each chapter for each and every one of us, because I had women approach me and say, I've resonated with your story, resonated with your chapter so much, without even realizing that we had something in common. So sometimes you may not even realize just how much in common you have and how many lessons you can learn from other people going through their own challenges and adversities. And it's not a sad book. It is a book of hope and inspiration. So I encourage our listeners to grab a copy of the Volume 4 Women Thrive book. And Hayley, it's been a pleasure. How do people connect with you and maybe get to know a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, so we have websites, Animal Instincts Australia, Outback Equines. I've got a social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. But yeah, if they want to send us an email or if you just look up those business names, I'll come up. There's no one else out there with those names so far.
Amazing. Well, we're definitely going to include all the information in the show notes. So scroll down, have a look at all the links, connect with Hayley. And I hope you have enjoyed this episode. It was such a refreshing episode to just hear what you do and a little bit about your story. And I hope our audience have enjoyed getting to know you. Hayley, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. To all our listeners, if you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with others and leave a review on our podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on another episode. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to Women Thrive podcast. If you found today's episode empowering and inspiring, be sure to subscribe and follow us. Better yet, leave a review and share it with others. We're committed to bringing you more stories that will empower and inspire you on your own journey. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep pursuing your dreams.